This is the former line of the Wilts and Berks Canal. All around us was the old GWR works built by Brunel, and this is all under threat. I'm at Wiltshire. This is the Wilts and Berks Canal. Technically, actually, this is going to be the North Wilts Canal. This was the original line of the canal, and behind me over there you can see there's some sort of places being developed on the side there. The canal kind of ends there at the moment, but there is work going on sort of over there, which is opening a new section, and that's going to connect onto an existing section which is over there in East Wiltshire, and eventually, maybe 5 years time, this will all be connected and there'll be quite a lot of canal down here. I'm not going to do a video on that right now. There's one coming up. I'm going to be visiting there in a couple of weeks, so we can have a good look at that area then. But I want to cover this canal as it goes up into Swindon. Now, I've touched on it before a few times in my earlier videos, but there's a lot happening at the moment. There's a big change of council in the area. So the council in 2023 changed to a Labour council, and now they've got a huge majority in Swindon. And there's plans afoot, certainly in sort of schemes going on behind the scenes, where there may be an option to restore this canal through more of the original line into Swindon. Where I said they're building some new bits, that's brand new canal. That's going to divert the canal around Swindon. But the North Wilts Canal, which connects to the Cotswolds at Latin, still needs to go up through here. So the idea was to divert it, but there's hope now that they can take it through the town centre. Now, this section here was saved because it was fishing lakes. They kept them for, I think it's carp fishing, and I think when all this was developed and then it all became part of the development around here, you can see they're quite sympathetic houses on the sides here, kind of looking like old sort of canal warehouse buildings. Quite good for nature as well. If you look in a lot of them, they've got sort of bat and bird sort of boxes built into them. So we've got Bevan's Bridge. As you can see, it's I don't think it was ever sort of destroyed. I'm not too sure how much restoration went into it. Then we've got a problem here with these gates. So this land is currently closed off by the landowner itself, which means the boat trips running from Wiltshire can't come up through to here, which is a shame. But hopefully that'll be resolved soon. Fingers crossed. It's been going on for a year or so now. There's a lot of boats that use this section that come from the King's Hill section, which is where we're walking to now. And then we've got the amazing Skew Bridge. This is an old railway line, so this carried the Midland and South Western Junction Railway, which went from Cheltenham down to Andover. You used to have stations in Old Town and stuff as well. Would actually be a really good railway nowadays if it still existed, but unfortunately it's long abandoned. So this leads down to kind of the next section of canal the Trust have been working on recently. So they've had to do some repairs here because the towpath itself, you can kind of see it here as breaking up and going down to the canal. So over the years, the canal has widened itself, and what they've done here is they've driven these stakes down in, and they then put like a mesh around it, as well as a core layer there, which if that sort of rots away down through there, that will kind of grow stuff on the banks. They've also used wood to create like a basket effect in the side here, and then if we go a bit further down, you can see there's a load of clay in here. So behind that layer, there's clay puddled into there, and then it's backfilled with mud just to finish the bank. This is part of a project to do this all the way through here to protect this towpath, because we are going into kind of a bit of an embankment up here. So this is leading into the centre of Swindon, and this reaffirms my point that I always make about canals and city centres and town centres. Now, Swindon's a big old place. It's had a lot of house building. It's probably not been planned very well as it's been built, and you've got this wonderful nature corridor. There's ducks and moorhens, you can hear the birds tweeting, there's everything in here, fish and all that lot. So this could go into the centre. But what you can see here, which is quite clear, when you build a canal, you don't just need a section wide enough to build a canal channel. You need a section wide enough to create a nature corridor. Now, that nature corridor needs to include margins on both sides. Needs to include a tree line if possible, and various other things. And what you actually need when you do a canal is about 30 metres. Now, 30 metres is a large section going through a town, but that really allows that biodiversity corridor to work. You can go down to 20 metres, but you're really starting to restrict what you can do there, and you are going to start going into more of a concrete canal than a nature corridor. Now, as you can see, there are already boats on here. These are local residents who've got sort of mooring on the side of their house. Now, with some foresight, with some planning down here, with some extensions that are already happening to the south of us, and some potential extensions that can happen in front of us, there could be enough canal to make it worthwhile for certain boats to drop in and start using this as a waterway. There's going to be a good few miles of it here, and Swindon Council, like I said, they recently changed to a Labour council. We now have a Labour government. We also have local Labour government around here as well, which does make life easier. Labour traditionally are more pro-canal than Conservatives were, and the former council, they weren't fans of the canal. They had no real idea of how to run the town, which I'll mention as we go through. So one of the plans that are in progress at the moment is by the Trust to extend into the town centre. Now, just in front of us here, you'll see we are literally at the end of the navigation, at the end of the canal. And we've got in front of us an area called King's Hill is just here, and this is the road going up through where there's a roundabout. This is the original line of the canal, and the canal line does exist, but they need to work out exactly how much it's going to cost to restore this through. So the trusts are currently looking at options and are hopefully putting some projects together soon, which will employ somebody to look at it, see the viability of it, the costs of it, what utilities need to be removed, and all things like that. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be easy. The canal's coming from behind us there and is going over to behind that bus stop just there. So you've got this roundabout, you've got this road behind us which it needs to pick up. So it's going over a very busy junction, but there will be ways to do this. I don't think they need to lock up or down, but by the time you've got the canal dug down and stuff, you just need the clearance of boats. I'm not too sure what the answer is here. Probably a raised sort of roundabout maybe. I'm not too sure, maybe even a T-junction. This road behind us isn't that busy. This road coming across us is. So this does lead down to a very green area though, and that channel is still there. As you can see here already, we're already into utilities, but look ahead of us here. This is the old line of the canals straight through. So we're talking, there's going to be cabling under here, there's going to be probably mains water pipes through here, there's going to be lots of things, sewage pipes maybe, but they can all be moved. It's just working out exactly the cost of doing so. Now, there is storm drains in here as well, but that's not a bad thing because the storm drains can go into the canal and the canal then gets fed by those storm drains. So that's one of the boxes ticked already. As a road goes, you've kind of got the roads sort of crossing it are closed, so you've got this little sort of turning area here. So there's only really one road that's going to need to be kept that crosses the canal in this section, and that can probably be a lift or a swing bridge. It won't be used that much. It's only for sort of local residents accessing the back of their properties and stuff. But you've got this lovely clear area here to restore this canal. So we're talking this section is about 3/4 of a mile from King's Hill up to the town where we're going to now. And I've already passed another bridge that's complete, and in front of us we've got another bridge that's complete. So other than some footpaths as well, it's quite easy to do. Now you can also see how wide this section is. So this allows the large area I said before, the 30 metres, to build a wildlife corridor, which not only benefits nature itself but the residents as well, because you know, green living is much better than a concrete jungle, which Swindon has become. And you'll see just how bad Swindon Town Centre has got as we progress up through here. But in front of us is one of the bridges that survive, and this takes you under and to what is the multi-storey car park in Swindon. Now the great thing about this is when they built this car park they allowed for the canal, so you've got the opening right through the middle there, which was put there so if the canal was restored it could carry on. The other really good thing about this here is underneath here is a culvert still ready for the canal. I think it used to be a footpath years ago, but they filled it in. They don't need to close this road, they could literally just dig that out and carry on through into the town centre. And this is Wharf Green. Doesn't really live up to the name, does it? It's neither. So this once was quite green. When I was a kid there was loads of plant in here, but like the rest of Swindon they've just destroyed it. But the idea is they can come up to here and they can create a wharf in here and maybe have a market around here. The Wilts and Berks Canal Trust recently shared a post where they actually showed this with Camden Market imposed over the top, and it would be a lovely addition to the town. If you look around, the first thing you're going to see is absolutely everything is boarded up, and that exists throughout this town. The canal originally would have ran right through here. This is Canal Walk, and there's room here to still put a canal. You're going to narrow it quite a bit, but the second plan that's going around in Swindon at the moment is redevelopment of this centre, because it's just dead everywhere. Like everywhere's closed down. It's getting pretty rough in the town, and people are calling for change. So Heidi Alexander is the MP for South Swindon. She's currently leading a programme to look at the redevelopment of this whole area. Now, this was originally put through as an idea by another chap who looked at building a monorail as well as various other things and restoring the canal through. Obviously, monorail for most people brings Simpsons to mind.
I'll show you my idea. I give you the Springfield monorail.
But it was actually a very viable scheme, and it got some bad press. Now the chap unfortunately has passed away. The idea of redeveloping this whole area is definitely still sort of there with a lot of people. It's a shame Laurie Marsh didn't get his wishes and sort this all out, really. The canal would have originally carried on straight down through here towards like the Zurich building there. At that point there was a junction, and it would have gone off to the county ground, the Swindon ground that way, and the North Wilts Canal that way. And this is a site of, I think it's a Golden Lion Bridge it's called, and canal was bridged here. It was a very fancy bridge. One of the options is to come down through this gap here and bring the canal through, but the problem is with that option is behind us there is a bit tight to turn a boat, so there would need to be changes made to the buildings here to do that. So some other plans include running sort of a bit further down here and coming off the main town centre and sort of diverting round. There's, I think, 3 planned routes. The one we've just walked down is probably the best for Swindon, but that does include, like I said, adjustments to buildings which are going to be expensive. As you come down through here, you can really see how it is. I used to come out drinking here when I was in my 20s, and this place was absolutely thriving. Now everything's closed, it's all abandoned, and quite frankly, it stinks of piss down here. Now, you don't feel safe coming through here. I'm local, and I don't like coming down through here, especially at night. It's very rough. This place needs something. This place needs to be energised. It needs to be redeveloped. It needs to be sorted. Now, we've had years of awful ideas from the council. Now that council's gone, let's make some changes here. But look at it, I mean, this town is just awful. It's just abandoned, it's forgotten. It's almost like they want it to fail. Now, we don't want this place to fail, we want this place to thrive. Now, you're coming up with these harebrained schemes, like the bus gate. They've got this bus boulevard coming through just over there where the canal would have originally ran. And they built this thing. But the problem is nobody wants to come to the town centre because it looks like this. It is awful. Now, let's look at what we can do to get people into the town. Not look at stupid ideas to spend money on something that brings people into the town, but they need a reason to go there first. Now, you can look all over the country and you can see canal restorations and canals running through city centres where the areas have been completely revitalised, full of pubs, bars and restaurants, thriving businesses that then bring in more businesses. People come into town to have a drink, have a bit of cake or whatever. Then they come in and they spend some money at the local shops. They spend some money at cafes. They spend it everywhere. This will help the economy. This will help redevelop this town and turn this absolute eyesore of a place into a decent town centre. One of the original plans, which was kind of put forward because they had no real option, was to go around and go through the parks, which are just kind of over there. Now that then goes through a railway village, which is quite a unique example of railway heritage and all that lot. Now, going through there probably isn't the preferred option. It's probably the last option, because when we're restoring the heritage for the canal, you don't want to destroy the heritage of something else. And the railway itself has its own era, has its own ideas and heritage that need to be kept and need to be restored. Now, Swindon has done an awful job of maintaining its heritage. The Mechanics Institute is in pieces. There's various other things that have just not been managed, and a lot of that is due to pretty poor contracts handed out by the council. And we're going to go to another one of those right now, which is affecting the canal restoration. Now, where we're about to pass under is the original canal route, and this takes the canal under the Great Western Railway, or takes the railway over the canal. Swindon Station is just to the right of us here. This was a massive works back in the day, a huge works. So you can see just how long this is, with bridge after bridge of railway up above. If you've ever visited Swindon, it's one of the gems of Swindon. You've got this steam museum, you've got all the outlet centre and that over there. It's really nice, and it is a prime example of what Swindon can do with its heritage. Now, Swindon before the railway was a little tiny place. There was nothing here. The railway boomed. Brunel built his maintenance yard here, and the place just grew. And now it continues to grow, but they refuse to seem to want to spend money on the centre and improve the centre when they're just building houses on the outskirts. So I want to apologise for the Swindon bashing, but unfortunately this isn't the end of it. Now, I grew up in Chippenham, which is just down the road. I used to come to Swindon as a kid. It was our weekend thing. We'd come, we would go to watch Swindon Town, go into the town centre and enjoy everything that Swindon had to offer. So it's horrible to see how this place has been absolutely abused by previous councils. They really don't care. Well, it feels like they don't care. Now, the new regime seems to have a different viewpoint on the projects, seems to want to help the town. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, but we all need to stand together. We need to make sure this happens. Just to the right of us here is another example of what we need to be doing. So we have the Oasis Leisure Centre. To anyone that's not local, it was a fantastic swimming pool with slides, wave machines. It's protected by Historic England. There's a big dome over it. There's a massive, the pool itself is protected as well. Now, the reason for that is it's an absolute treasure. It really is. Now, Swindon Council, being Swindon Council, like a lot of councils, they gave up running a lot of these places, and they gave a lease to a company. I'm not going to mention their name, but they gave a lease to a company, and they have basically abandoned the place. They've tried to knock it down. They've been trying to get it knocked down for a while. Thankfully, the support of locals has meant that's not happened, but it's still a possibility that things are going to happen to it which are going to destroy any chance of that being reopened as part of a big development going on up here. Now, they want to build, I think it's 750 flats or something like that, which I'm not against. People need a place to live, but there's only a few like 100 odd parking spaces. Those flats, though, are going to encroach on this site. Let's go back to the 20 to 30 metres, 30 metres preferably. The flats are going to come right up to the edge of here, which means this cycleway cannot be kept with the canal. It'll only have a very narrow towpath. Now, the route itself is protected, and the Wilts and Berks Canal Trust were invited to certain things to discuss involving this restoration into the main project over there. And then suddenly a consultation comes out with a very short period of time to react to it. The Wilts and Berks were not informed. Nobody in Swindon was really informed. It was kept on the down low, and very short period of time where we had Storm Bert come in, which caused utter carnage around here, widespread flooding throughout the area, and that consultation has now ended already, but they still have to put a planning application in from there. Now, we need everybody that watches this video to keep an eye out, and when that planning application comes in, we need to all share it and get it shut down, because there is no way that they can do what they want to do here without destroying any hope of the canal coming through. From where we were at Wharf Green, it's about another 0.8 miles up to here. Again, bridges still in place, although slightly decorated. And once they got through this, the restoration of the North Wilts is much simpler, because there's underpasses they can get through. They've got to get around a trading estate, but then they're open and they can go for quite a few miles. So this should be protected by the council. This should be pushed by the council. The developers should be looking at this actually as an option as to what they can do for the site to make it more viable. Now, canal side living makes a lot of money. You can get, I think it's about 20% on top of a price of a house if it's by a canal. So those flats could easily be built sort of alongside here and sell at a premium. They could put a little marina in there. I know it's a bit far in advance, but with all the projects going on, it wouldn't take a lot to connect all of this, and a marina actually becomes very viable then. Around that marina, they can then have the usual sort of mooring and stuff, and bars, restaurants, pubs, and again canal side living above those. It's just such a shame that this company that have managed to get this lease on this land can't see past the pound signs for building as many flats as possible, and 2 absolutely massive industrial units as well, which, although there's industrial units behind us, I don't think really are in keeping with the site. If they could avoid that employment land, they could build the marina, they could build more flats, they could make the site definitely more viable. It's pretty overgrown over there now, as you can see. But just here as well, this is another good heritage feature. So like I said, this was all a massive railway works, and these gates that we walked through are the old entrance off the canal up into the railway works. So these are built for the railway, for the workers to access the site. Again, graffitied like most of Swindon. But you can kind of see where I'm going with this. We need joined up thinking in this town. We need to really start to think what Swindon needs to be. Swindon doesn't need to be what it's been for the past 20 years, because the past 20 years have just destroyed it. Swindon needs to have a bright future. Swindon needs to have a plan. Swindon doesn't need developers coming in, and they need to think about profits. I'm a businessman myself, I understand that, but let's not destroy our heritage to make a few more pounds. I think it's very important to protect our heritage. I feel it's very important to try and add nature to our town centres, and this project can do both. It can create miles of new canal and open up even more further along. It can bring boats into the centre of Swindon. It can bring nature into the centre of Swindon. And Swindon is a place which is desperate for something to change. So please keep an eye on these projects. I will be sharing on my socials as always, and see how you can support them, how we can go ahead and push the council to make a change. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.